What would you do if your dream job turned into a prison sentence? Imagine waking up one morning to discover your name tied to international fraud, your bank account's frozen, and the police at your door, all because you clicked Apply Now. Before we dive in fully, let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to BYTE Crimes. Your support motivates us to keep bringing you chilling, educational, and eye-opening stories like this. Now sit back, relax, and let's begin this story in full. Daniel Hart was 24 years old, a fresh college graduate in Dallas, Texas. Like millions of young Americans, he carried a heavy burden: student loan debt, an uncertain job market, and the constant pressure to make it quickly. His parents weren't wealthy, and after graduation, Daniel found himself submitting applications day after day, week after week, with no response. His laptop became his closest companion: job boards, LinkedIn posts, and endless email notifications. Yet every polite rejection chipped away at his confidence. Nights were long, mornings restless. Bills piled up. His once bright spirit dimmed. Then came the email. It bore the logo of an international logistics corporation, well-known, sleek, and professional. The subject line read, "Congratulations, Daniel. Remote employment offer. Immediate start." For a young man desperate for a chance, it felt like fate. The offer promised flexible hours, a generous monthly salary of $6,000, and opportunities for growth. Work from anywhere, be part of a global team. The email said, the recruiter, who introduced herself as Sophia Lewis, spoke with polished corporate language, even referencing Daniel's university by name. Details he couldn't understand how they knew. To Daniel, it looked real. The company website linked in the email seemed legitimate, filled with pictures of skyscrapers and smiling employees. The offer letter was neatly formatted, carrying a watermark of the company's logo. He thought, finally, my life is about to change. When Sophia requested his personal documents for processing, Daniel didn't hesitate. He scanned his driver's license, passport, and social security card. He filled out forms that asked for his bank account number for salary deposits. In his mind, this was standard procedure. What he didn't know was that, with every document he uploaded, he wasn't securing his future. He was handing it away. For the first 2 weeks, everything seemed normal. Daniel received training tasks, simple data entry assignments that made him feel busy and important. Every email ended with encouragement. "You're doing great, Daniel. Keep it up." But then strange things started happening. His bank sent him alerts about unusual activity, large sums moving in and out of his account. His email inbox filled with receipts and confirmations of transactions he had never made. Packages began arriving at his apartment, addressed to people he didn't know. Confused, he reached out to Sophia. She reassured him it was just part of the company's operations and that he shouldn't worry. "You're safe, Daniel. Trust the process," she wrote. But doubt was creeping in. One morning, Daniel's neighbor knocked frantically on his door. Outside, 2 unmarked black SUVs were parked on the street. Men in suits stepped out, flashing badges. Within minutes, FBI agents were inside his apartment, seizing his laptop, hard drives, and phone. Daniel's heart sank. They accused him of being part of an international money laundering scheme. His accounts, his identity, his digital footprint, all linked to fraudulent transfers worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. "I don't understand," Daniel stammered. "I was just doing my job." But the agents weren't smiling. Quick reminder before we continue. Comment below. What do you think so far? Do you believe Daniel should have been more careful, or was he simply unlucky? Let me know your thoughts. Now, let's look deeper into what really happened. Cybercriminals know desperation makes people vulnerable. Fake job offers are one of the fastest growing online scams in the U.S., costing victims over $445 million in 2023 alone. These schemes exploit trust, using cloned websites, stolen branding, and convincing recruiters to lure people in. Once they gather personal details, hackers can open credit lines under your name, funnel illegal funds through your bank account, commit crimes while leaving you holding the evidence. In Daniel's case, his bank information was used as a money mule channel, moving illicit funds across borders. His identity documents were replicated and sold on dark web markets. To the FBI, it looked like Daniel was the criminal mastermind. The case against Daniel moved fast. Federal investigators built a timeline. The fake emails, the suspicious transactions, the network of accounts. Everything pointed back to him. But one detail puzzled them. Daniel's digital fingerprints, his browsing history, login times, and IP addresses didn't match the scale of the operation. It was as if someone else was controlling things in the shadows. Meanwhile, Daniel's world was collapsing. His family was devastated, his reputation destroyed. His friends distanced themselves, afraid of being associated with him. Daniel sat in an interrogation room, staring at the blank walls, replaying every email, every click, every moment he thought his life was turning around. And then something unexpected happened. An investigator walked in holding a thin folder. He tossed it on the table, leaned forward, and whispered, "Daniel, we know you're not the mastermind here, but unless you help us, you're going down with them." Daniel's chest tightened. He wasn't guilty, but proving that was another story. The FBI revealed what they had uncovered. Daniel's identity was being used by an organized cybercrime syndicate operating out of multiple countries. His bank accounts had become laundering funnels. His personal details were being resold to other criminals. But here was the cruel twist. Every breadcrumb led back to Daniel. His name, his signature, his bank cards. The faceless criminals hiding behind encrypted servers and VPNs were nowhere to be seen. "Why me?" Daniel asked, his voice trembling. The agent answered bluntly, "Because you were desperate, and desperation is their favorite weapon." From that day forward, Daniel became both a suspect and an unwilling asset. Investigators monitored his accounts, emails, and devices in real time, hoping the cyber ring would slip up and reveal themselves. Daniel lived in constant fear. One wrong step could brand him guilty forever. He barely slept. He stopped answering calls from friends and family. Every knock at the door made his heart race. But in the shadows of the dark web, the criminals kept moving. Using Daniel's identity as a mask, they orchestrated fraud, extortion, and ransomware payments. It was like playing chess against an opponent you couldn't see. For Daniel, the worst part wasn't just a legal nightmare. It was the mental one. He felt violated. His identity, something so personal and sacred, had been cloned. Another version of him was out there committing crimes, destroying lives. Sometimes he would stare at his reflection in the mirror and whisper, "Who am I anymore? Am I still Daniel Hart, or just a shadow they created?" The community turned against him too. Local news outlets painted him as the face of cyber fraud in Texas. Neighbors whispered. Old classmates posted memes online, mocking his downfall. Daniel wasn't just fighting the law. He was fighting society's judgment. Months into the investigation, a slip occurred. One of the fraudulent accounts connected to Daniel's identity mistakenly logged in without a VPN. The IP address traced back to an apartment in Eastern Europe. The FBI saw their chance. Working with Interpol, they tracked the ring's activity, uncovering layers of fake job offers targeting young graduates in the US, Canada, and the UK. It turned out Daniel wasn't alone. There were dozens of victims like him. Innocent people whose desperation for work had been twisted into tools for crime. This revelation shifted the narrative. Daniel was no longer the prime suspect. He was a key witness in a global cybercrime case. But the syndicate wasn't done with him. Weeks before the trial, Daniel received a chilling message on an encrypted email account he never created. The subject line read, "Stop talking or your family pays a price." Attached was a picture of his parents' home. Daniel froze. The very criminals who had stolen his identity now had their eyes on his loved ones. He faced an impossible choice: stay silent and protect his family, or testify and risk retaliation. He reported the threat to the FBI, but fear gnawed at him. Could they really protect him? Or would he become a casualty in the cyber war he never asked to join? The courtroom was tense. Prosecutors laid out the evidence against the syndicate, presenting Daniel's story as a centerpiece. They showed how emails were crafted, how websites were cloned, and how victims were manipulated. Daniel took the stand, his hands shaking as he recounted the moment his dream job arrived. He described the humiliation of being branded a criminal, the sleepless nights, and the weight of carrying crimes that weren't his. The jury listened in silence. For the first time, Daniel felt seen, not as a criminal, but as a cautionary tale. Meanwhile, the captured members of the syndicate showed no remorse. One even smirked as Daniel testified, whispering something in a language he didn't understand. The verdict came after weeks of deliberation. Several ringleaders were sentenced to decades in prison, while others vanished into the digital ether, their identities still unknown. Daniel was officially cleared of wrongdoing. His accounts were closed, his name slowly removed from databases of suspects. But the scars, financial, emotional, and social, remained. He lost years of his life, his savings, and his sense of safety. Even as a free man, Daniel knew he would always look over his shoulder. Daniel's story is not just one man's tragedy. It's a mirror for all of us in a world where opportunity and danger share the same inbox. Here are the chilling lessons his case leaves behind. If a job offer sounds too good to be true, it probably is. No legitimate employer will ask for sensitive IDs or full banking details up front. Desperation is the bait. Cybercriminals thrive on targeting the vulnerable. Always verify. Cross-check company emails. Look up recruiters on LinkedIn and call official hotlines before sending anything personal. Daniel's nightmare is proof that in the digital age, your identity is the most valuable currency you own. Once stolen, it can be weaponized against you in ways you never imagined. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this chilling story. What happened to Daniel could happen to anyone, and that's why we share these stories, not to scare you, but to prepare you. If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to like this video to help it reach more people. Comment your thoughts below. Do you think Daniel should have seen the red flags earlier, or was he simply prey to a sophisticated trap? I want to hear your take. And most importantly, subscribe to BYTE Crimes. Your support motivates us to keep digging into the dark corners of the internet, bringing you chilling, educational, and true crime stories that protect and empower. Because in the world of cybercrime, the next victim could be you.